History was made earlier this week at Fenway Park when the Red Sox played the Blue Jays. All about that on today's Locked On Red Sox.
You are Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Gabby, former ESPN social media associate, and also the host of the Boston Balling podcast as well. And I'm here to bring you the latest in all things Boston Red Sox, no matter whether they're good, they're bad, or maybe a little bit in between. I am here to bring it all to you with this network. So make sure that you start your day off with this show because I am here every single day. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB and use code LockedOnMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Welcome to today's show. I am very excited about this episode because the Red Sox have been certainly frustrating since the All-Star break, and it's just been a lot of ups and downs for this team that we've seen. But there is so much talent in the Red Sox system right now and lots to look forward to in terms of the future of this team. And so I'm very excited to introduce a guest I have with me today who's the perfect person to have on here, who sees firsthand a lot of these prospects in the Red Sox system. Emma Tiedemann, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming. And for those of you who don't know, which I'm sure you all do by now, Emma does do the play-by-play for the Portland Sea Dogs, which is a very exciting part of the organization to be a part of. I feel like AA is definitely a level where we see a lot of growth and development of players. And we're going to be talking a little bit about that later. But first, congratulations on your huge, super cool accomplishment, being able to call a Red Sox game from the booth at Fenway Park on Monday night. Too bad the Red Sox decided to lose that game that night, but what can you do there? But you did make history, you and Riley Pay, as the first women to do an entire Red Sox broadcast from the booth during a game. So congratulations on that. It's super cool.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm still kind of wrapping my mind around how it actually did happen. And yes, that's how I spent my Monday night. It was awesome.
Yeah, no, that's super cool. And I feel like to be able to see all the work that you put into being in this industry and all the work you do in Portland come to fruition on a bigger stage and be able to do it for the major league team was probably such a cool feeling.
Yeah, definitely. You know, I've been broadcasting for, I think, for over 15 years. I've been working in baseball for 10. And yeah, you know, every morning, you know, you wake up and think, all right, you know, got to go do all this other stuff just to try and chase this dream one day. And so it was made extra special that it was with the Red Sox, and obviously seeing so many familiar names on the field: David Hamilton, Tristan Casas. It was Willie Abreu. I mean, it was awesome to kind of have that full circle moment with so many former Sea Dogs.
Yeah, it's definitely got to be cool seeing these guys work their way up and finally make it to that level. And you're like, you know, I was covering these guys when they were in the Red Sox system trying to prove themselves in this organization and continue to grind to make it to that level. So to see some of these guys and the success that they've found so far here with the major league team is probably cool for you to see.
Yeah, you know, I spent countless hours with these guys on the bus as soon as last season. You know, the overnight bus trips coming back from Richmond, Virginia, and having stories about those types of situations that, you know, really only a broadcaster is in with a team on the road. You know, we are the only person that travels with the team, so we have a lot of the behind the scenes moments with the players and stuff. But it was really cool to know that yes, they work their way up just like broadcasters try to. Like I said, the countless hours on the bus, the long hours at the field, and it all paid off for them. And luckily, I got a taste of it on Monday night.
Yeah, and I also feel like too, baseball's so different from other sports in that it takes a lot and there's so many levels to get up to being at the major league level as opposed to other professional sports where, you can be a rookie and kind of just jump right into the action. But with baseball, it takes so much mental toughness and stamina because there's just constantly having to go from one level to the next. And it just seems like it could be such a long journey to finally make it there as a player. And so for you as a broadcaster, where you're watching these guys is they feel like they're so close to making it up to Fenway, but they still have, a couple more steps to get there.
Yeah, I think that just goes to show you how difficult the game of baseball really is. Like you said, you could just be a rookie. We're going to have rookies start playing in the NFL here in less than a week, and they were just drafted. I think we've seen some guys like Paul Skeens obviously move up very quickly out of a draft. Kyle Teel was just drafted last season, but he's only at AAA. And I don't know if he'll make the major leagues this season. So yeah, I think it just goes to show how hard this sport is because it does take you quite a while to develop. Even if you're coming out of one of the top schools, say in the SEC, well, you're still going to play single A baseball and there's still a chance you're not going to make it all the way to the major leagues because there really is no comparison at any level for the level of competition that can prepare you to big league baseball.
No, there really is not. And that's why it's so difficult, but it's such a great sport. And baseball's always been my favorite sport. And, I'm sure for you, your love of baseball probably goes back a long time too. But did you grow up a Red Sox fan?
I did not. I mean, obviously, it's hard not to at least kind of keep an eye on the Red Sox just because of the history of the franchise and who they are. I mean, everyone knows the Boston Red Sox, but I grew up in Dallas, Texas, so I was a Texas Rangers fan. I still am. I, listened to the whole World Series on the radio in October, November. But yeah, I mean, I grew up just overall baseball fan, and then obviously really zeroed in on the Red Sox ever since joining the organization in 2020.
Yeah. Hey, no, that's a very respectable answer. I was so nervous that you maybe were going to say Yankees based on your reaction. And I was like, oh, thankfully that's not what she said because we don't like the Yankees here.
But no, I don't blame you. Full disclosure, I am married to a Yankees fan. So I do know that side of it.
Yeah, that's definitely tough. My dad is a Yankees fan, so I've definitely had my battles with him with the the rivalry within my own home growing up. But it definitely makes it fun too, like when they're playing each other. It's always fun from that standpoint. But what was it like for you being part of that atmosphere at Fenway and just really being able to take in that legendary Fenway environment from a broadcasting perspective?
I mean, it was special. I originally, before every broadcast here, the national anthem is where I can kind of take a breath and like center myself. We're on commercial, and that's kind of my 60 seconds of just, all right, quieting down a little bit and zeroing in on the game. But honestly, the game and the pregame stuff for NESN moved so fast. I didn't have time for that. I made a point that during the 7th inning stretch and Sweet Caroline, I took a breath and I didn't look at anything else. I just looked across Fenway and got to see, these two historic moments, just little glimpses throughout the game, and just take in the whole atmosphere of Fenway because it's the most historic ballpark in the country. And it was just so special to hear everybody singing Sweet Caroline and take me out to the ball game. And yes, the Red Sox were losing, but there was still so much energy in the ballpark and hearing the organ. I mean, it was so special.
Yeah, that's what makes going to Fenway such a cool experience. And I even have some friends who have never been to Fenway before that want to go because they just want to be part of that. Like, even if they're not a Red Sox fan, it's just cool to witness that because of just how much history exists at that ballpark and just, how many players have really stepped foot on that field. And it's just the same Fenway Park. And it's just so cool that, it's such a historic place. And anybody who's a baseball fan, I think, can appreciate everything that Fenway has to offer.
Yeah, definitely. I think the only fans that wouldn't appreciate it are Yankee fans.
Yeah, right.
Including my husband. But yeah, I mean, you walk around Fenway I mean, the concourse is so small. The seats sometimes don't face home plate. It's just, it's lovingly stuck in time. And I think that's so special, because baseball is a nostalgic sport, and I think that baseball in particular, fans love the history of the game. And I think there's so much more respect placed on the history of baseball, versus other sports. And I don't really know why, but I think it's just some aspect of the game that people absolutely love. And they absolutely like to talk about the nuances and everything about it. And I think Fenway is part of it. Fenway is part of the fabric of baseball. And I love the fact that it really has not changed too much. And it still feels like you're in the early 1900s in that ballpark.
Yeah, which is so crazy. That's why I love going there and just being able to take in a game there, because it truly is such a special atmosphere and you feel like you're so close to what's going on the field there. And you can't really say that for every ballpark. So I'm really glad that you were able to be there and not only just consume Fenway for what it is, but also making history at the same time. And you absolutely killed it on that broadcast. It was so fun to be able to listen to that and say, this is so cool. Like they should do this more often.
Yeah, it was great. And it was awesome having Riley there. I think that it helped kind of the transition a little bit more. Obviously, I've never done a broadcast with Dave O'Brien or Kevin Youkilis, but to have Riley there, who, we call games every single day of the week together, and we have great chemistry and great back and forth. I think it was awesome to be able to, if the moment got too big or it was like, oh my God, we're calling it a major league game, I would just look over and be like, oh, but Riley's here. So it's just like the Sea Dogs. It's okay. It's okay. It was good to have her around there too.
Yeah, like that sense of comfort of, somebody I'm familiar with that I've been working with is here with me. Cause that can be nerve wracking. Cause I mean, obviously, you see these two guys in the booth who are both just big names among the Red Sox and the organization, and they've just been doing this for so long. And it's like, wow, this is cool to be able to be beside them. But I could see how nerve wracking that would be.
Yeah, it was huge. And it was the whole lead up to the day too. I mean, we did a media scrum before. We were talking to reporters, and I mean, there was a whole baseball game before that night game because it was the doubleheader for Danny Jansen. So yeah, it was nice to have somebody you were completely comfortable with. And it was a very, very long day, but it was great to have Riley.
Yeah, definitely an odd day for sure. And the Red Sox losing both games was definitely not ideal. But I have had plenty of conversations on this show just about how inconsistent they have been this year. But the good news is there are a lot of good players in the Red Sox farm system. So coming up, we're going to be talking a little bit about some of those players and what they can provide for the Red Sox if they eventually get their chance to be on the major league roster. But first, I want to give a shout out to Liquid IV because this stuff has been an absolute lifesaver for me lately, ever since I learned about it. And it's basically a powdered substance that you put in with your water to help you stay hydrated with it. And the amount of flavors they have is pretty incredible. I tried their pina colada one recently, and it was delicious. And if you're looking for something after a night out or just from traveling and you need to stay hydrated, make sure that you take in Liquid IV because it'll change your life. No more thirsty summers when you indulge in hydration with Liquid IV. Get 20% off your first order when you go to liquidiv.com and use code MLB at checkout. Again, that's 20% off your first order when you shop Better Hydration today using promo code MLB at liquidiv.com. And I was actually just talking to Emma before we started recording about how hot it's been this summer. And if you like to sit outside and watch baseball a lot, it's a game changer for you. So make sure you purchase some today. Speaking of Emma, who is phenomenal at what she does and just made history at Fenway Park by broadcasting a Red Sox game from the booth, which was so comforting to hear. And also just the personality that you brought to the broadcast, I thought was really cool because sometimes I think when there's so many games and it's the same broadcasters all the time, like sometimes when the team isn't playing well, they can kind of fall into a pattern of sounding the same over a certain period of time, which like I definitely get because there's so many games, but I liked how you just brought a lot of personality to the broadcast, and it made me feel really connected with what was going on the field.
Thanks. Yeah. I mean, that's something that I try to bring to every broadcast. I think that, my overall goal if you tune into a Sea Dogs game is that you feel like you're just sitting next to me and we're just watching baseball together. I don't try and keep it too stuffy or anything like that. If I make a mistake, I call myself out on it. I have a laugh and we move on. And I've whoever is my partner, like Riley, we kind of make it a point to just kind of push ourselves for the content and to keep the broadcast fresh. I mean, we do 138 broadcasts every single year. So it is really easy to kind of fall back and kind of have some lulls and everything like that. But, Sea Dogs kind of make it easy sometimes. We do have the theme nights and stuff. So we were playing as the Maine lobster bakes a couple of weeks ago. And so Riley and I tried different types of cooked lobster on the air and all those different things. So yeah, I think that people are more engaged and they enjoy listening whenever you show that you're a person behind the mic, as much as you're trying to kind of humanize the players on the field. It just makes it a better listen, I think.
No, it totally does. And that's so fun. And I mean, I love lobster, so I feel like I would have been all over that. And it just makes it more entertaining for people just to be able to change it up the way that you do. And you've talked a lot about broadcasting Sea Dogs games and being able to see these players when they're at that level. And it has been said before that AA is kind of the most important level for players when it comes to their development within the organization. So why exactly do you think that is? Like, what is it about AA that really forces them to grow as a player and hone in on their skills?
Yeah, it's a good question. I've had scouts say that AA is the quote unquote make or break level. If you can compete at the AA level, then you've got a pretty good shot of eventually maybe making it to the major leagues with some team. And I think that, at AA, you've kind of funneled into the more competitive players and the more talent. You have two levels of single A with high A and low A. So there's a lot more players and just at those two levels. And then at AA, that's whenever you're really testing yourself, whether you're a hitter or a pitcher. And, you'll hear the hitters talk about the big difference of single A and double A's. At single A, you'll face a pitcher and he'll have 1+ pitch, but you're able to attack his other 2 or 3 pitches in his arsenal. But at AA, he has 3+ pitches. So as a hitter, you cannot take any pitch off because these pitchers are so talented. So I think it pushes both. The pitchers make the hitters better and the hitters make the pitchers better. And then when you get to AAA is a really interesting mix of guys who are right on the cusp of being called up. And we see that right now with Worcester. And then we see a lot of guys who have made or have service time at the major league level and are trying to just get on with a team to take them back up. So the AAA is a really interesting mix of talent, but AA is really where they get their first taste of, okay, the pitchers are not going to take any at-bats off. Their stuff is disgusting, and now I have to attack them as a hitter.
Yeah, and AAA is tough because there are players who bounce back and forth between AAA and the majors. I mean, we're even seeing it with some Red Sox players now. They'll get sent down to AAA, then they'll get called back up because there's an injury or something, and then they'll get sent back down. And that's got to be frustrating for some players. Like, I can't get over that hump of being a more consistent player on the major league team right now, that like I'm a borderline player that they feel still needs to be in AAA, but has some potential in the majors. So that's got to be tough for those players. But when they're in AA, they can really take advantage of, okay, like I'm eyeing my dream and it's getting closer and closer. I just need to develop my skills more now. And, the biggest story surrounding the Red Sox organization recently has been the big three that kind of has become the big four now because of how good Kristian Campbell has been and people eyeing him and his eventual major league debut too. And I don't know that I've ever really heard of Red Sox prospects who have been more hyped up and have gotten more attention than these guys have. And I think when it comes to the future of the Red Sox, it's hard not to be excited about these guys. But Roman Anthony in particular has just been tearing it up in AAA since his call up. What was it about him when he was in Portland that you feel like you really saw him develop to be able to do what he's doing now at AAA?
I mean, when I saw him here in Portland, granted, I came back in July because I was on maternity leave, but the time that I saw him this season and at the end of last season, I mean, he just felt like a big leaguer. He has the body build up for it. The way that he would play in the outfield, the way that he would have his at bats. I mean, you would never guess that this guy was 20 years old and just turned 20 years old. It's not like he's about to turn 21 this season. He's so young, but the way he carries himself and handles himself, it just screams big leaguer to me. And you would see him in his at bats and he would be really patient and wouldn't swing too early in the count, would sit on some pitches. But his last 2 or 3 weeks with Portland, you could tell he was operating on a whole other level. His last series here at Hadlock Field, I mean, like I said, he wasn't really swinging pitches early on in the counts. He was his last week and he was demolishing baseballs. I mean, he was just making pitchers pay. He was attacking early. He was just operating at a level way higher than AA. And it was like he was playing a video game and he made it look so easy. I think the power obviously stands out, but he has great control of the zone, really good bat to ball skills. I mean, he's the real deal. I was really impressed with Roman Anthony.
Yeah, he's super exciting to follow. And I'm so excited for him to get his opportunity because I think it's right around the corner. Like, I think there's a chance that, next year at some point we see him up in the majors. And the Red Sox obviously have a lot of outfield depth right now, which is really good, but they'll probably move somebody this offseason would be my guess, because I think they're anticipating for his call up to be sooner rather than later, just based on how well he's really been playing and just how much of a statement he's really been making already in AAA. And Kyle Teel is somebody who intrigues me too, because I feel like he has a lot of versatility in his skill set. And he's somebody who, really can be, I think has the potential to be at least one of the best catchers in the game when he gets called up. But I think there's going to be more time where he's down in AAA than Roman Anthony. Like, I feel like he might just need some more time in Worcester before he gets the opportunity to be called up.
Yeah, I think at the catching position, polishing is key. That is such a very, very important role. And, you don't want to give up runs with wild pitches or pass balls and, just focus on catching and getting really, really good behind the plate and getting to know those pitchers a lot better too. He just caught for Rich Hill a couple of bullpens and now Rich Hill is at the major league level. And maybe next year, the two of them will be battery mates at Fenway. But yeah, I think that Kyle Teel, he is a very impressive player, mostly because there's extra levels to his game. You don't see too many catchers at the major league level stealing bases and having the speed that Kyle Teel does. So I think that he could be a threat in a variety of capacities for Boston whenever he makes it up to Fenway.
Yeah, no, it's super exciting too, because like you said, like I don't really see Connor Wong right now out there stealing bases a lot, and so I think it'll be great to have him up here, being able to showcase his skills in a lot of different areas. And obviously Kristian Campbell too is another player who has just been very quickly emerging as somebody who could be a star for this Red Sox team. And it's interesting with him too, because the Red Sox middle infield right now isn't fully set in stone. Like, there's a lot of moving parts right now with that. And part of that has to do with injuries and players not really playing their full-time position because of that. And so I think there's a great opportunity for him right now to be able to get his shot, because they're not really set in stone in that part of the field.
Yeah, I mean, and he's just continued to hit at every single level this season. And he's such an athlete. He could play at any position. He can play the outfield. He can play in the middle infield. he got some more middle infield reps with Portland this season and impressed right off the hop and made some really great spinning plays up the middle, still accurate throws over to first. He's such a versatile player that is such a good hitter. I think he could be a sneaky good weapon for the Red Sox because, like you said, the injuries keep kind of piling up, and we've got some movement with guys kind of playing out of position occasionally, and Campbell could provide some stability there.
Absolutely. Stability is key for this team because I am so sick of, guys getting injured and them having to do some reshuffling and then it doesn't work out because one player is playing where he shouldn't be. And it just causes this chaos on this roster. So the stability would definitely be key. And I think it's a golden opportunity for him to continue to play the way he's playing in AAA and then get that opportunity because he's somebody who also very soon could be called up. But Marcelo Mayer, unfortunately, it's sounding like is likely to miss the rest of the season. That poor kid just has not been able to stay healthy. And I feel like there's so much potential there, but the injuries are kind of holding him back from his timeline, I think, a little bit in terms of where the Red Sox saw him at, because now that he isn't going to be able to likely see any playing time with AAA this year, he's going to need some time next year to be able to play in AAA. And it's going to be a big year for him to show that, for one, he can stay on the field, and for two, that he has the ability to be able to get his call up to the majors, in the near future.
Yeah, definitely. I think, he might hopefully have a chance to play in the Arizona Fall League. So maybe he can finish the year playing baseball in some capacity. But yeah, I think that despite the injuries, the potential is absolutely there. And we saw a healthy Marcelo Mayer at the beginning of the season. And I mean, the guy just rakes. He just hits double after double after double. He's such an impressive player up the middle. I think once he can get healthy, he will be worth the wait. He's still young at 21 years old, and he's just a young kid and having to go through it a little bit. These are different injuries, so it's good he's not re-injuring the same thing over and over again. So I think that, next season we'll see him start with Worcester, and if it's anything like this year where he was healthy from the start, I mean, there will be really no question on if he will be making his major league debut. I think he'll force his way into that conversation pretty quickly next season.
Yeah, that's really good to know for sure that you see so much upside with him, because obviously he's been highly anticipated by Red Sox fans here, but I want them to do this the right way. I don't want them to rush him up when he isn't ready yet, because this is somebody who could be a generational talent for this team. So we want to make sure that people are being patient, because when he does get called up, it'll hopefully be so worth it. And that's why AA is so fun. You just see so much potential of so many players who could eventually make their mark with this Red Sox team. And coming up, we're going to be talking a little bit about just some other key players to look out for that are at AA right now that people might not be talking about as much. But if you are looking for a fun way to play daily fantasy sports, PrizePicks 100% is the place for you. PrizePicks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. And it's an exciting way to be able to get in on the daily fantasy action, especially with football season right around the corner here. Also, WNBA is still in full swing, and obviously the sport we've been talking about, baseball, lots of sports to get yourself involved with. And you can actually win up to 100 times your money with as little as just 4 correct picks. So that's literally turning $10 into 1,000, which is a game changer for sure. And all you have to do is just download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code LOCKEDONMLB on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks, run your game. I'm telling you, this is something that could get you addicted quickly, but will win you lots of money if you do get involved. And this is a great time of year to get involved with how many sports we have coming up here in the fall. So make sure that you download that app today. I am here with Emma Tiedemann, Portland Sea Dogs play-by-play broadcaster, and it has been an absolute pleasure speaking with her about her experience broadcasting a game at Fenway and what that was like for her, and also talking a lot about the Big Four that Red Sox fans have been highly anticipating coming up to the Major League team. But the Portland Sea Dogs are very much a level of talent that we don't always get to see showcased regularly as Red Sox fans. And I feel like there are a lot of players down there who have a ton of talent that we don't necessarily hear about as much. So who are some players right now in Portland that Red Sox fans should be excited about moving forward?
I think one right now, Brennan Cholucci, he's a lefty reliever. I was just looking at some numbers this morning about him, and since July 1st, he has like a 0.60 ERA. He comes in, he's kind of turned into a long reliever for us, pitching 2 to 4 innings an outing, and still just is absolutely dominant. I think he's around 32 innings pitched these last 2 months and has like 45 strikeouts, like high strikeout numbers, and comes in very, very high leverage situations for the Sea Dogs and just shuts things down. He's been so impressive. And then newest Sea Dog right now, Mikey Romero, already with his first AA home run yesterday against the Harrisburg Senators. He's been really fun to watch, has been good defensively as well. So I think that those two right now are the ones to watch for the Sea Dogs.
Yeah, that's so exciting too. And it's good talking about pitching because the Red Sox organization for a while now has not done well with identifying and finding good pitchers that they can develop through their system. And I think them hopefully changing their approach this season in terms of the way that they're developing pitchers and the people working with the pitchers, I think will hopefully change a little bit of that. But they definitely overall lack pitching depth among the organization. So it's good that you're eyeing a pitcher here who could contribute, because pitching is definitely an area of need like it has been for a while with this Red Sox team.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, talking about pitching, you have Isaac Coffey has 10 wins on the season. Hunter Dobbins was just promoted to Worcester last week, but hasn't made his debut yet with the Woo Sox. But he also, I think, had nine wins and had a low 3 ERA as a starter, and could easily just go throw 6 shutout innings with his eyes closed by his last couple of starts for us. And then Robert Kwiatkowski, a reliever, has, I think, 8 or 9 wins. So yeah, Portland right now is sneaky pitching depth right now for the Red Sox.
Yeah, which a lot of people wouldn't know because they don't get to see these players daily like you do. And I think the narrative a lot of times is, well, we don't have any pitching in the system, but that's not necessarily true. I just think, some of them are at the lower levels right now. So we're not going to see the immediate effect of what they can do in a Red Sox uniform just yet, because they're still working their way through the organization. But there's definitely some talent there. And I think it's safe to say a lot of that pitching talent will stay here because they can't really afford to trade talented pitching right now in the organization, because they're going to need those pitchers later on. So I think it's pretty safe to say that a lot of these guys you mentioned definitely have a shot when they get the chance to make it to the majors, that it'll be with the Red Sox.
Yeah, I think that if anything we've seen from Boston is that, yeah, pitching is very important. And so I think that, whenever you think about, oh, we don't have pitching depth, just send people to Portland.
Yeah, what's the environment like at Sea Dogs games? Like, do they get a pretty good crowd for the games like regularly there?
Oh yeah. I think we sell out just about every other night. It seems like we're always one of the leaders in attendance in the Eastern League. The fans in Portland are incredible. It's always a great atmosphere at Hadlock Field.
That's so fun. And I love Maine, so I definitely want to take a trip there and be able to go to a Sea Dogs game and just kind of be able to watch some of these guys, because this is definitely a lot of young talent that Red Sox fans as a whole can look forward to down the road. What would you say is your favorite thing about your job and broadcasting the Sea Dogs?
My favorite thing, I think it's just that every day is different. You don't know what's going to happen the next day, whether it's in the game. You might see a no hitter one day, you might see a walk off home run the next. Our promotions are all different, so that makes every day different as well. Some days you pull the tarp, some days it's 70 and perfectly sunny outside. I just think it's just the fun atmosphere of not knowing what's really coming next, and being able to watch a baseball game every night.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of baseball, right? You really don't know. You could get a crazy 14 inning game one night and then get a complete game shutout the next, like the Red Sox with Brian Bayo on the mound and a shutout there, him pitching 8 innings of that game, and he looked outstanding. But then you could get again another night after that where the pitcher just gets completely mowed over by the opposing offense. You really don't know. And I think that's the great thing about baseball is every game is so different and you don't know what you're going to get from it. And you don't know, what's going to happen and what type of game you're really going to get. So that's the beauty of the sport, I think, and being able to cover that regularly. You're probably going into it every day like, oh, I wonder what type of game we're going to get tonight.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you do all the research trying to prepare, but you really don't know what's in store for you.
No, you don't. Well, this has been awesome, Emma. I really appreciate you taking the time to come on here and chat with me. And for those of you tuning in, Emma's fantastic. Hopefully you can get to a Sea Dogs game and watch some of these young players in action, because I think hopefully this conversation helped you realize how much young talent and excitement there is in this organization and what the future looks like for the Boston Red Sox, and how even though the major league team might frustrate us sometimes, the future certainly is bright with lots of guys who could come up and contribute. So as always, I appreciate everybody tuning in. And Emma, thank you so much for joining.
Of course, anytime.
Don't forget, everybody, to check out Locked On MLB next, where host Sully will break down everything going on across the league for you. You can find that wherever you get your podcasts, just like you can with Locked On Red Sox for free Monday through Friday. Thank you for tuning in. Go Red Sox, and I will catch you next time.